Here we go again. Isn't this fun? So I'm on page 496 and the subheading is The Illusion of Being Human as Opposed to the Reality of Being God. So in recent days I've been speaking. Well, in actual fact, one of the viewers comments that I'm always speaking about this Earth experience not being real, and do I feel as if that may, be kind of detrimental to some people? And I'm like, well, only if they're very naive and they haven't even read a single book on Buddhism. Because the first line, they always open with is, this is Maya, it's illusion. And then, who hasn't seen the movie The Matrix? What is real, Neo? That's the question. And so, if anybody feels nervous about hearing people speak about this world being Maya, an illusion, not real, then, well, they are exceedingly terrified little bunny rabbits, aren't they? With the greatest of naivety, which is cute and quaint, but quite silly in this day and age. Particularly when we even have our own scientists now speaking about things which are really sounding mad, sounding absolutely preposterous. But the fact of it is, our scientists now are being confronted with having to face these things which they've been in avoidance of forever. And many scientists have been disrespected over the years for even fringing on some of this stuff. But it's so unavoidable now, it has to be confronted. Since the advent of quantum physics 100 years ago, more. And so I spoke a few days ago in a video about Sean Carroll speaking about the many worlds, and then I did my videos about how I've been experiencing many worlds for a long time, and it's very refreshing now for some brave scientists to start speaking about that. You see, this title, Closer to God, is kind of ambiguous because, well, what God? Who's God? What do I mean? Well, that's the whole idea. People have to keep an open mind about who's God, what God, and read the book, and then they'll find out. But for the purpose of today's reading, I'm going to be reading just a page and a half, and speaking about the implications of what it is that I'm expressing here. So, the illusion of being human as opposed to the reality of being God. To have an illusion or an illusory egoic human existence necessitates a dissociation from cosmic consciousness. Our human form is the temporary dream state of consciousness. When we experience a spiritual, religious or entheogenic conscious OBE, our consciousness reverts to its origin. So, when we experience a spiritual, religious or entheogenic, psychedelic or a conscious OBE, where we leave our body into another dimension of consciousness, our consciousness reverts to its origin, that of being all-pervasive. Whenever we dissociate from our ego, we momentarily go back to the source as far as consciousness is concerned. when our physical form as a human ultimately ends, this is when we, God consciousness, go home. We are only dreaming of being human. It isn't our default state of consciousness. Our default state is cosmic God consciousness. We are all God. Now, in this discussion I had in the comments with one of the viewers, I'm kind of expressing why I am very often conveying that this is Maya here, this is illusion, and there's nothing real, Neo. And then we ask, well, what is real? And we end up in some sort of a paradox. And, you know, the question that Morpheus asks Neo in the Matrix, when Neo rubs his hand on this chair and he says, this isn't real. And then Morpheus says, well, what is real, Neo? And that's what we're dealing with. What actually is real? On what degrees of reality? Can anybody define reality? You see, even in our modern times, when the ignorant layperson would consider that they are in a real world, even our own scientists would convey to them in an instant, well, that may appear to be so, but there isn't in actual fact any material matter here. It is all Maya. And then people, no, it's not, I'm real, my children are real, this is real. And then the viewer said to me, if somebody bludgeoned you to death, then would that be not real? Well, if somebody jumps off a building in a movie, is that real? You see? In what context are we looking at? As far as the ego human program is concerned, it is having a real experience. As far as the dialogue in the script of a movie is concerned, the actor is having a real experience, conveying how everything is super real when they have a green screen behind them and they're just standing on stage. They're not really on top of a skyscraper and there's a fan blowing their hair, you know, and all this sort of stuff. So it's all different degrees of Maya. That's what's going on here, people. And so I've highlighted something here which needs to be sort of emphasised. So when we attempt to explain what we are as awoken, spiritually connected people via our intuitively acquired knowing, we enter into a complete paradox. So when we attempt to explain, like I'm doing now, as spiritually awoken, connected people via our intuitively acquired knowing, we enter into a complete paradox. Now, in the book of Thomas, which I was reading from yesterday, alongside excerpts from Luke and Mark, it was emphasizing that the kingdom of God isn't out there. The kingdom of God is out there, but it's also in here. The kingdom of God is a state of consciousness, a state of gnosis, when we acquire a level of knowledge. They never said it in those scripts. At least I'm not aware of that, but it's the intuitive. I don't even know whether they were using that term in those days, but it's your intuition that tells you that you are God and this is Maya, and you know there's so many different states of consciousness which are spoken about in the Bible. Visions and dreams and apparitions and, you know, mirages and all that sort of stuff. And so we enter into this paradoxical knowing, whereby, it's like Schrodinger's cat. It is and it isn't. And that's the whole thing about the many worlds. It's just too perplexing to consider that something could be and not at the same time. So that's why we've gone into the many worlds, because even though it's completely preposterous, we can at least get our heads around it, our human cognition, more than something being and not being at the same time, which is just simply what quantum mechanics is about. The photons or the atoms, they come in and out of existence, and even when they are scrutinized under quantum microscopes, there is no nucleus, there's just a field of energy. And so whatever comes in and out of existence isn't matter. It's just the illusion of matter. It's just energy. And so we're at a very curious time now in our human intellectual evolution, whereby, what people have been saying for thousands of years, spiritual people, is finally being addressed by, our modern day gods, the scientists. So we enter into a paradox. This is because we can do nothing save for jump from concept to concept in a vain and futile attempt to explain what it is that we know ourselves to be. When we say that we know ourselves to be God, having a fictitious human experience, this is in itself doesn't make sense once we realise that there is no self other than God. If there is no self other than God, then we are doing nothing other than inventing an imaginary self which is separate from God, separate from ourselves, separate from cosmic consciousness, separate from the hologram, separate from the dream, separate from our dream, which is God. God's dream, who is dreaming of a cosmos with life forms, just because he can. So we're in God's dream, people, and that's what I've known intuitively through many of my experiences, and that's why many people, when they have these entheogenic or supernatural experiences, they say that where they went was more real than here, more real than real. More real than what we consider to be real here. Oh, this is solid, this is real. Well, it's more real than that stuff. And yet, there's nothing solid there. At this point, I should stop writing this book and discontinue any thoughts along this plane, because I am only thinking, talking and writing to myself, for myself and about myself. There is no other than me, myself. Yes, solipsism. It all ends in solipsism because we are a paradox. We are consciousness inventing, imagining, creating and playing. Ultimately, when we know that we are God dreaming of a cosmos, it's time just to enjoy the dream. What I and others are doing when we speak like this is nothing more than if we were to scrutinise our egoic dreams and seek out the individuals in our dreams as if they were real, like we, the dreamer, think it is. There is only a dream in the mind of God consciousness, cosmic consciousness. So when we're looking for real here, what we're doing is it's like when we are in a dream, and if we are in a dream and then we become lucid and then we start to scrutinise all of our dream characters, and we start to go, you're not real, are you real? And it seems to be real, and one of them comes, and you engage with them in some way and it seems so real because you can feel everything going on, and then when you open your eyes you go, my God, that wasn't real. What is real, Neo? Well, like I said in my discourses yesterday, they're just as real as here. They're just in a different paradigm of consciousness. And there are, in actual fact, many worlds. And I personally have been visiting many of them for a long time. And so this is why I can speak from this crazy vantage, which just doesn't make any sense to the uninitiated. But if you have had out-of-body experiences, if you have partook in entheogens, and if you've had supernatural, spontaneous experiences, then you'll know exactly what I'm saying. And then when you come back to this reality, you can no longer believe in it. And then you ask yourself, well, what is belief? Well, belief is just foolery. It's just self-kiddery. Oh my God, when I say I believe this and I believe that, I'm kidding myself. Yeah, everything is a joke in this reality. Everything is highly premised in us deluding ourselves from the fact that we are God and we are having a dream. The whole cosmos is the mind of God dreaming of worlds within worlds within worlds. And so, anyway, after that caveat, I can do nothing save continue in the dream of being both God and human, playing with cosmic intelligence. Both being God and a human being, playing with intelligence. And so, best we just continue as if we do know not what we are. And so, that's the whole thing about it, you know. What do you do, you know, when you become enlightened? Before enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. There's nothing else to do. Whilst you have this human experience, you have to comply by the rules. Because we are in a simulation which is governed by criteria which has been written into the program. And as much as people go, yeah, well, you say if nothing's not real, if you jump off that building, then see if it's real or not. Well, jump off a building then, and then you find out, won't you? Yeah, you'll find out for yourself. Then you go, fuck! You know, when you're in a different paradigm, and you go, oh, the Wake and Brave was right about everything not being real. And now you in another existence, and you can't come back. Not in the same form in any case. Maybe in another form. Let me just read to see if this is going anywhere. The rhetoric that constitutes this book may or may not be familiar to readers from other fields of study. Still, it is prolific in the spiritual literature realm, and it is even beginning to be studied scientifically nowadays. At long last, scientists are tentatively dipping their toes into the neuro-theosophical territory of spiritual and religious phenomena. Until recent times, this level of investigation was mainly left to philosophers like William James, who wrote Varieties of Religious Experience, published in 1902. These days, however, there is a well overdue sequel to that theme written by a neuroscientist who decided it was high time that somebody started taking spiritual and religious mental phenomena seriously. Started taking spiritual and religious mental phenomena seriously. And so I paste what he's saying, it's just a short excerpt, but you see throughout this book I'm pasting stuff that people are saying, so the reader can see it from the originator's perspective. I've just been speaking about this person that's doing this scientific work and that said this and that, and he's out there and he's got a PhD, here's his name and here's his details, and that's what he said. And so, you know, nobody can ever discount what I'm saying here as my imagination, because, you know, I'm conjoining what I say, what my experience is, with what other people have said and experienced in a similar way. And so chew on that one, peeps.